So we'll just start
Okay.
right here. How are you doing?
I'm doing good. I'm better.
Yeah, yeah. You've been through a little bit of a ringer lately, huh?
It's been yeah. I mean, I think now I'm more in just like um I'm just angry. To say the
I can
least.
imagine. So, for those who don't know, what exactly happened to you recently?
There's a lot. So so my kids were expelled from school, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because of my OnlyFans page. But I will put the caveat that the school had known about it since last summer,
Mm-hmm.
and deemed it to be fine in the summer. But these moms, and there's actually like one like main mean mom, a Karen, that this is what she likes to do. Her whole thing is like, let's take a woman down. So I'm not her
Mm-hmm.
first target. I'm probably not going to be her last target. I was just her most recent one. So she decided that, when she saw these pictures, she decided to join my site. So she's
Mm-hmm.
been on my site as a paying member, um,
Thanks
digesting
for
the
the money,
content.
Karen.
Yeah, right. Although she thinks it's disgusting, it's disturbing, but she's actually like on it, taking pictures, actually, and then passing them around town, and then also printing them out, and sending them to the school, the diocese. So, in a nutshell, she's the reason that my kids are out of school, out of a
That's
Catholic
ridiculous.
school. Yeah.
So I can't think of anything that could be more hypocritical.
Right. I know.
It's like, in order for her to know about your OnlyFans, like you said, she has to subscribe to it and whatnot. It's like, well, aren't
Yep.
isn't she just as guilty as you at that point?
I would think so, right? Her and like a handful of dads, or as many dads as and whoever else is on the site at the school. Yeah, they are. They are.
Yeah.
But I guess
So
it's okay to digest the content. You just can't make the content.
it's ridiculous. Is that what the school told you, or is that just
No.
how they're operating?
The school said back in the summer, because we had an inside connection with one of the teachers at the school that was close with the principal. So they were feeding us all the information that was going on. And
Mm-hmm.
at the time, when it was brought to the principal's attention in the summer, it was like back in July. She notified us. She told us that she told me she didn't want to talk about it. I respected that because it's probably a really weird topic for her to talk about.
The Karen,
So what?
the Karen didn't want to talk about it, or
No. The principal. The
oh, okay,
Karen took it to a Karen took it to the principal.
gotcha.
She sent me a email saying, "Hey, these pictures are going around," but those pictures were Twitter pictures at the time, and actually they were like
Mm-hmm.
super, like I think hot, like on a balcony, like in lingerie, like there was no like topless, no nudity in those pictures, but they were scandalous. And so
Scandalous.
scandalous, yeah. You can be in a bikini, it's fine, but in lingerie you can't. So she was giving me a heads up, like, hey, these pictures are going around, you're being talked about. I said, okay, thank you. I just left it at that because she said she didn't want to talk about it, discuss it. But as it kind of progressed over the summer before school started, she was telling one of our friends who's a teacher, well, people are on her site paying for it. They're just as like kind of like, you know, how can I like, deem Crystal to be like doing something wrong when these people are doing exactly the same thing? They're actually paying to be on her site. So she understood that. But the thing is, like the principal, and I liked her. I mean, she has like, we've done like 100 hours of volunteer work per year at the school. I run the
Mm-hmm.
crab feed. We do like, my husband and I do a ton of volunteer work for the school, and we have for the last 7 years. The same mom that went after me, tried to get the principal kicked out like 2 years ago. The principal came to us, asked us to like go to the diocese and write a letter or talk to them. We got like a bunch of parents together and did that. So it's just, the whole thing is like, it, I don't know. It's maddening. That's for
Mm-hmm.
sure. Because it's like now she's stuck with like this mean mom. Like this mom, this Karen is going to be like up her, like, and all in her business, knowing that she is able to get me out. Now, what else is she's going to think she has all this power and she can like basically run the school. So, it was, I think, a bad business decision on her end, but you know,
I mean, Do you know what sparked this? Did she just wake up one day and was like, fucking Crystal's going down? Or what happened?
Kind of. So you know what I think it is? I think it's because her husband and I have always been like, we've always talked about, because I grew up deer hunting, right? And so I'm a big game hunter. And I've been doing that since I was like a little girl. That was my thing and my dad and I did together. So I think she didn't like the fact that her husband and I had this, like, we always had this connection about hunting. And so he would send me hunting pictures. We would talk about things like that. So I think that was like kind of like the driving force. And I've never really even talked to this mom, but like I said, she gets it in her where she's like, this is like, I'm going to take this person down. I mean, she chased around like a realtor around town, you know, trying to out him, thinking that he was like gay, you know, so that was her whole thing. Like, I'm going to out this person.
As if that would matter in any at all.
Right. I mean, none of it. I mean, it's just so, I don't know. It comes to like an obsession with her. Cause like I said, if it was really that like disgusting, disturbing to her, she wouldn't be digesting it and paying for it, like on a, you know, on a monthly basis. So I don't know, if it's an insecurity she has within herself, just a need to feel like she's all powerful, because her family is very wealthy. So I want to say she is like this white privileged wealthy person that likes to just, you know, use her influence and her power to like do people like you know, have people do her bidding for her. So yeah, she's just a miserable person, in my opinion. I mean,
you can say she's a miserable bitch. It's okay. This isn't a family show.
Yeah. So, I mean, I actually like, and I'm not a very like good Catholic, but I mean, I would pray for her like, man, can she just find some peace and just leave me the F alone? Like, why are you making my life miserable? Because, you know, she was like, in the very beginning, when this first started happening, she was taking my pictures and she was just passing them around town. I was getting phone calls from like some of my girlfriends I haven't talked to like in months because of COVID. And they're just like, you need to leave the school. You don't want to fight these moms. And I'm like, fight? I'm like, what is there to fight? She's like, you know, they're going to take you out. You just need to pack up and get out of the school and move out of town. And I'm like,
what?
I'm like, are you effing kidding me? Like, this is body shaming. This is, you know, bullying to an nth degree. Is this what you teach your children to do? Like in this society? You would never allow children to be bullied, but you're going to allow like another mom to do this to me. And it was just, I mean, that phone call really rattled me. Like, and she was a really good friend. And I sat there just shaking. Like, I cannot believe that you think that I should just pack up and move out of town. And I should have these women just sit here and like, you know, basically try to take me out, or whatever they're going to do. So, so that was like, and then I got a text message from the mean mom, like Karen, her husband, telling me like, you better have your husband like call me, kind of like, you know, he needs to, like, my husband should be controlling his woman, which was kind of ironic. And then I got a really good angry voicemail from him, basically, you know, saying like, I'm a disgrace, I'm an embarrassment to the community, to the school. At the time we hired some lawyers over the summer to go knock on people's doors because they had all this stolen content, to let them know like, hey, these are like,
I was actually going to ask you about that.
Yeah. So I'm like, these are, you know, this is like stolen content, copyrighted DMCA violations. So they, the law firms hired investigators to go out and like 25 families, built like dossiers on them, went knocking on their doors, like, hey, like, why are you trying to get the kids kicked out of school? And why is this a problem? And you have stolen content. And do you know, like, there's penalties to this and fines. So that kind of quieted them down. But the same, like, mean mom, the Karen,
the main Karen.
Yeah. So her husband got pissed, like, sent me this voicemail, like, you need to stop like your PI bullshit and, you know, like, stop harassing me, like, stop harassing them. And I'm like,
hold up.
The hypocrisy in this is so like outrageous. Wait, you guys are the ones that are passing my content around. And then he calls the school and tells the principal, you need to tell Crystal to tell her lawyers to back off. And I'm like, are we in 5th grade in elementary school where you go running to the principal and you tell the principal how to handle like real adult situations?
Literally running to the principal. Shit.
right? As an adult, as a 40-something-year adult. I mean, I'm like, do you call the principal and you're like, my plumber didn't do a good job. Can you take care of it?
That's insane. And I mean, I assume all these people are fairly well off, correct?
Oh yeah.
And so what do they care what you're doing? Like, I understand that fucking main Karen, she's all purity, because
But it's not purity, right? I mean,
yeah.
from what I know about her, she is like, she's into some kinky shit, you know? And she goes around telling people that, you know, talking about her sex life to other people, like very like detailed at parties that, you know, so there's a lot of like shit I hear because people don't like her, right? So they come out and they're like, oh yeah, she's horrible. You should hear what she does. This is like her nickname around town. Everyone hates her because this is like what she does, but they don't stand up to her because she's like, they're afraid of her. So I'm like, it doesn't bother her. Like the content, her and her husband are probably like, they are probably huge. Like they're probably watching like porn and like I am more on my OnlyFans site, even though there's no sex tapes on there. They're probably on there, like, you know, looking at my pictures. I mean, I even know like the sex games that they play because people told me that they go to parties and she talks about them. And I'm like, fuck, I'm like, you know, I'm like, so I know she's not prudish. It's just, I was just her latest target where she wanted to just, you know, feel superior. Like I can take her down and I'm going to embarrass her. And, you know, and that was part of like her sending like anonymous envelopes. Cause once they found out they can't of DMCA laws, she changed her strategy, right? So she started taking all the pictures off of my Instagram and then some pictures off of OnlyFans, printing them out, putting them in like envelopes and mailing them to the school. And so then
but there's still DMCA violations.
Still, yeah. And you know, and then the school has them in a safe, which is even better. So
that's not weird at all.
No, right. But the thing is that in August, the school met with the diocese attorney, the superintendent, and the priest, and they'd all determined this isn't an issue. Like Crystal doing these pictures, they're not an issue. We have no problem with it. We've allowed, like, you know, we can't pass judgment because we've had a lot of things happen in the Catholic Church with priests. So we're going to just, right, exactly. I'm trying to be politically correct here. So they've allowed all
don't worry about that.
Okay.
This isn't a politically correct podcast.
Okay. I'll try not to drop too many F-bombs. And so they decided that it was fine. The kids are fine. This is not a school issue. Well, I think when that happened, and they were still calling, you know, there was a handful of moms that were like kind of on her bandwagon, calling the school, like, you need to get her out. They basically were saying like, this isn't a school issue. We're done. We don't want to talk about it. I think that pissed her off even more because she's not used to being like told no. Right. So then that's when she started like taking and printing the pictures out, sending them back to the school. And then taking pictures, like, and I still got a picture last weekend from like my OnlyFans site, like, and it's being passed around, and my friend has it in town here, but he got it from somebody like 20 miles away. Who was 20 miles away. It's gotten like, so deep. What?
Is she just printing stuff out on printer paper and giving it to people, or what exactly is she doing?
She's taking screenshots with her phone and she's sending it around, texting it around. There's private like text chat, or there's a group text that's been going around with a bunch of pictures that I know of. There was a private Facebook group that they had talking about it. They've created fake accounts on my Instagram because I went through when this first happened and blocked all of them. Like took this, like the directory of the whole school, because there's only like 300 kids at the school at the time, and basically tried to block every single person off my like Instagram. So the one thing I did do that I think actually really pissed her off, because, you know, like I've been sitting here quietly the whole time, but when she was doing all this, she was telling people like back in August, September to go to my Reddit page, go to my Twitter page and spy on me. Right. She's telling all these moms like, oh, Crystal's is like, has a site, you know, you need to go check her out. Let's kind of like go like stalk her, you know? So I don't know if you saw it, but it was on Reddit and it was posted on Twitter for a long time. And basically, I did kind of like poke her a little bit where I'm like, hey, hey, school moms, thanks for telling your husbands about my site. Now they're all my
I
members.
didn't see that.
What?
I didn't see that.
Oh.
That's a god level troll right there.
But because I knew she was like, she told all these moms to go to my Reddit. So I was like, hey, because it was like a 1 year like anniversary back in September of like, starting the OnlyFans page and being on Reddit. So I was like, hey, like happy 1 year Redditors. Oh, and by the way, that all you mean moms at school have like shared my pictures. You told your husbands to come over here. Now they're following me. Now they got burner phones and they're texting me, telling me like, don't stop. Oh, that like actually like, I think pissed them off.
All Karen's husbands are all just subscribing to your page and tipping you. He's like, keep up the good work.
Well, and then it was funny because then I had one dad that like we do the crap feed together and I've known him. His kids aren't at the school anymore. And he reached out and he's like, hey, I've been following you on Reddit since like day one, like since September 2019. And he's like, and I never said anything because I'm like, well, that's man code. Man code is you don't say anything to a woman. But some dads at the school are a little bit pussies and they broke man code and they told their wives.
Sounds like a lot of pussies at the school. So
right,
that just doesn't make any sense to me why they want to expel your kids instead of the person who's causing problems, because you're obviously not the issue. It's like everybody was cool with everything until this Karen decided to go on a rampage.
So yeah, and so then what happened, like, she's passing pictures around, I'm hearing about it, I'm trying to like, just kind of take it. And then in January, we heard that she kind of upped it a little bit and she sent pictures to the bishop and then to the church again, and then to the school. And so that's when we heard like through the grapevine, okay, now that the bishop's office has it, because they were like, it kind of kept out of the bishop's office, then now they're going to bring it back up and have a discussion about it. So we wrote the superintendent of the school back in January and offered to leave like twice. We said, hey, listen, we know you guys have heard all these rumors and gossips. You've never asked us like how it got started, how we like this, what the site's about. We'll open it up for you so you can see firsthand like what's on the site. So
Give you a free trial.
For trial, with full authority, like what you're dealing with. And then we talked about like our, like all the things we've done, like we volunteer at a Catholic retreat, like for marriages. So, and like, because we went through this whole marriage thing, like years ago, like 5 years ago. So, and it's like super hardcore, like Catholic, like it's called retrovite that you do, like when you're like on the edge of like getting divorced. So we volunteer there, like, twice a year. And then we go to the monthly meetings. And so like, we're very involved in that. We've worked at the soup kitchen, food banks. So we do a lot of like volunteer work. So, I mean, so we basically let them know like, hey, these are all the things that are going on. And if you need us to leave because this is an issue, then we will leave peacefully. Just, let's have that discussion and talk about it. And like I said, we offered twice in that email to leave and we never heard anything, nothing. And then 2 weeks later, and this is what actually like pissed me off, where I was just like, fuck it and fuck everybody. And I'm like, I am just ready to like, I'm done. And that was after we sent the email, we heard nothing because the Catholic school is not very good at like scandals or organizational management or how to handle, any type of interpersonal conflict. So 2 weeks later, I've been the second grade room mom for my youngest. And I had to send an email out asking for yearbook pictures. Well, I get an email back from the principal saying that she got some complaints and emails about concerns that I'm collecting pictures for the yearbook of kids and that I need to stop and that she's removing me as a second grade room mom. And so what? I was like, yeah, right. So basically you're saying I'm unsafe to be around children.
Like, why would you be collecting pictures of kids? Like, do these people think about the things that they say before they say them, or?
Well, so I was collecting the pictures, right, for the yearbook, because I had to put a second grade, take like a collage together for the yearbook. So,
Okay.
and because of COVID and everything, I was like, hey, send me like a bunch of like, they're at home Zooming with their friend. I mean, so we had a whole thing that was already like pre-approved that we could send out to the parents. But yeah, so the main Karen is in my class. She's a child, with my youngest child. And so I know it had to be her. So she called and basically said that, it's, probably like, whatever. I don't know what she said, but the fact is that it was a concern for the school that I'm collecting pictures of children for the yearbook. And so I was just like, so you're saying I'm unsafe to be around children. When you have to volunteer at the school, you have to be like, you go through an FBI background check, fingerprinting, like you have to take these classes. So that after like everything we've done for the school, I was like, fuck you all. I'm like, fuck you all. I am done with this. I'm like, Chris, fucking like, we're going to the press because I cannot take this like bullshit, all these moms. I mean, we put the first article that went out, put the Catholic school in a good light, because we knew if we call them out, they would kick out the kids. So we put them in a good light and just saying like, these bully moms are out of control. Like, I mean, I'm fucking done with them. So after 7 months of like, still getting pictures passed around, I'm just done.
Whoa, this was going on for 7 months?
It's been going on since July.
Oh shit.
Yeah. This whole thing with this Karen, it's been going on since July. Yeah. I mean, and she's actually upped it. Like she's gotten like worse and worse. Right. And so, yeah, that's when I was like, I'm done. And so the first article went out, and I I think what happened is that in the article, there is a text message, and it's from the Karen's husband. And I think that is what like pissed her off. And I think they put pressure on the school and the priest to like kick us out. So, and then they said, oh, it's because you're like trying to like, get more media press for your page. And I'm like, my page does fine by itself. I don't need to out myself and then put my family at risk to, make more money. That's just like, that's ridiculous. So I'm like, I'm fine sitting at home, like we're still, working, doing our thing. I still make a good enough amount of money. I don't need press for that. So, yeah, I mean, it's all really discouraging, I think, for the fact that they would actually kick out kids. They take it out on 3 innocent children, when it's like, if I would have murdered somebody or robbed a bank, that would not, even if that was in the press, that would not even be an issue, right? They would not remove children for that. But the fact that's like, God forbid the mom has like, they finally had to be like, address the issue. Like, okay, the mom has a page and we got to kick her out because of that.
That's ridiculous. And then personally speaking, this is one of the reasons why I'm not religious, just because of all the hypocrisy that goes on in churches like this. It's like, wait, how? It's like all the Christians are really bad at being Christians. It's like none of them follow what the Bible says at all, unless they like what it says. And it's like, how am I supposed to believe any of this when it seems like you people don't even believe it? Obviously, not talking about you, but just a vast majority of the religious set of people, they're just hypocrites. I'm pretty sure Jesus didn't say to do any of this.
Or just pass judgment. It's just the judgment of, and that's how I felt like the last probably like couple of months going to school. Because we had already at the time, like in January, when we saw like, it's getting talked about removing the kids again. And then we sent an email and then we didn't hear anything back. We had then made the decision we were going to move the kids next year anyways. So we started looking at a different Catholic school, one that was more diverse, one that was more accepting to even to gay people, right? So we were going to move them to like just a more diverse population of a school. So they would just have, they wouldn't be in this white privileged like area, like, because the school is actually known. I mean, and I didn't really understand it really too much until this last year, but my husband always told me, he's like, he didn't want the kids going there because of the fact, he's like, the kids that come out of there, they're like, a majority of them are like, come from these wealthy families, and they're little assholes. And I'm like, now that I'm like, I see it. Like, I see these kids that are like, you're right. It's like, we should have put them in a different school, because we're not, I mean, we don't, it's like half the population of that school, lives on like it's very wealthy. And the other half of it is just like us normal people that aren't wealthy, that are just like, that actually do work and have like jobs, and everybody else are just either wealthy parts stay at home and they have nothing better to do than be like little busybodies. So I, would rather put them in some place where it's like, and I'd rather have them in a place where it's like, it's more diverse, so they can actually see how the world works and be exposed to that. So, yeah, I mean, now they're going to go to a public school, so, which is fine with me. I think it'll be good for them.
Yeah. I mean, just the way people are now with cancel culture is like,
Really? Yeah.
God forbid anybody does anything that doesn't jive with somebody else, especially over on the West Coast. Cause I know you're like in the San Francisco area or something like that. I was like, my uncle lives out there. I was out there for Christmas. I mean, it's a really pretty area, but I would never want to live there.
Well, I think in San Francisco, like LA, New York,
I hate LA so much.
you wouldn't have these problems though, right? You wouldn't have this mentality of like, because I think a lot of it now is turning into like more of like, it's a woman's right, like body shaming. And you don't have that like in those areas, right? You wouldn't have that. It would be more acceptable in San Francisco, LA or New York, where you wouldn't, like, it wouldn't be an issue. But I think it's like, and in Sacramento, I mean, it's pretty liberal, like living here, but still you have these people that are just like, I don't even think with them, it's not even a cancel culture for her. It just became just this obsession, right? I mean, so, but yeah, it is, yeah, I guess cancel culture in the sense of, I'm going to destroy you,
Yeah.
And that was the one thing too. I felt like if we move to a different Catholic school, or we move wherever we move, if I don't stand up and say something, she's going to be following me around. She's going to like, then take all these pictures, pass it to the new principal, and then to the, it's just, she was never going to stop. And all because, and she's one of my biggest fans.
Yeah, no kidding. She's done more for your career than anything. Like, you're national news. I mean, I think you're actually global, because Audrey and Sadie and Evelyn down in Australia, even they know what's going on with you. And
Yeah,
then
I know.
one of the radio stations out here in Dallas, they were talking about you the other day, and I had no idea this was going on. I was like, hey, wait a fucking second. I know her. I was like, I need to find out what's going on here. So I mean,
talked to her.
Yeah, I was like, yeah, I mean, this Karen's must have done a lot for you lately. I mean, I can only imagine how much your page has blown up since this went, viral or whatever.
Yeah, and that was surprising too, right? And that was, it did go viral really fast, especially when they found out, like, the kids were like expelled from school. And I think it's just because it's like, it has so many different different facets to it. It's like the OnlyFans, it's like that you expel like a Catholic, kids, and you're punishing these kids. So yeah, that was surprising. And actually, I mean, it made me really sick to my stomach, because we had been approached by like other media sources, like in the fall, because of our entertainment attorneys. They knew they have like, they have inside information because they're in LA, and they tell these people like, oh, these are some good stories. Cause like there's a bunch of different little like stories that go along with all this, like, and real life stories. So they've been like, hey, let's talk about this. Like, this would make for like good reality TV. And we've been like, hell no. I'm like, that is like a liability. I don't want my family involved in that. I don't want to be like on television. Just leave us alone. Then they've kind of like, hey, let's write a story about this. And it's like, no, I'm like, this is, because once it's out there, it's like, it's out there forever. And it's like, I mean, even though it's like, okay, my content's out there, but still it's like, there was a lot of people that had no idea, like in my personal life. And then, and even in my my personal life, and like even within my career, right? Like everybody I've worked with throughout the years, I mean, there's people that, that's embarrassing. I'm like, oh, hey, like the engineers I used to work with at Intel. Hey, look.
Actually,
Sorry.
that's something I actually want to talk about, because you're not just from OnlyFans. Like, you're actually incredibly successful in your own life.
Hmm.
So I mean, when I started my own website, I talked to you a lot. It's like, hey,
Yeah.
how does this work in the other? So um you're CEO of, I don't know what company. We don't have to talk about it.
Yeah.
But just the amount of success you've had up to this point, aside from OnlyFans, is nothing short of, pretty amazing by itself. So what do you attribute to your success besides OnlyFans?
Um, you mean my personal success with that? Is that you're asking about? Like just
Yeah,
what
your
I've done?
professional career. Yeah.
Oh, you want me to talk about that?
Yes, because
Oh,
there's a lot more to your story than OnlyFans.
oh yeah. So yeah, I was an engineer at Intel for 13 years.
Hmm.
That's where Chris and I met. So we were both product engineers. Actually, when I first started, I worked in a chemistry lab for a few years, and then went and worked in a silicon to simulation engineering group, and then went into product engineering, where you have to actually write test code, and then you
Hmm.
actually test the chips, and then you work with different fabrication sites throughout the world. So did that for 13 years. Ran a technology company for another 4 years after that. And it was a women-owned small business, and I was able to get that like AA certified through the SBA, so we could
Hmm.
do sole source contracting with different government agencies. So did that for 4 years, and that was a lot of fun. I think that taught me more about like on the business end of like how do you like run the business from like marketing, customer service standpoint, um, the strategy and all of that. So that was a lot of fun. Had another company that we did, that was for cattle, that we did data analytics for, looking at pulling that. So it's like there's all sorts of things. And then when I was at Intel for
Went
13
from
years,
went
when I was
from
at Intel
computer
for
chips to
13 years,
cows.
yeah, right. But it was still technology based, right?
Yeah.
Like making um, these cattle applications. But going back to our agricultural applications, going back to Intel, I did a bunch of data analytics for years, and
Hmm.
so actually had a paper published within Intel, and that was on like circuit sensitivity and data analytics. So it's always kind of been like my forte is like the data part of it. I love like
Hmm.
big data. So and then I think all of that, because when we started OnlyFans, we fell into it, right? I mean, I didn't know what OnlyFans was. Someone recommended that to me on Reddit. I had no idea.
Hmm.
When they said that, we're, even though we're in technology, Chris and I were like, I'm like, okay, I've never heard of this platform. So we looked into it, and it was like, well, should we do it? Okay, we could. I guess it's behind a paywall. No one's really going to see me. Um, it sounds like fun, something fun to do. Well, and then we started it. I mean, it was super successful, like right off the bat. And that was like
Hmm.
us like trying to, not knowing what is this site and how does it, and then trying to figure out like coming from that technology background, like how does that site work? And then
Not very
um,
well, but
yeah, there's a lot of bugs in there, right? I mean, from
yeah,
a technology standpoint, I'm like, oh man, you guys need to add new servers, or there's a lot of things that they need to work on. But
new servers to say the least. Jesus Christ.
right, there's a lot of things. But so I think with that platform, we were able to, I was able to use like my business background and actually like really like dial it in, and
Hmm.
using like, okay, create who is my like what is my brand, and then how do I market my brand out. So I think that has been very successful for me, because, and the thing is like we just, like I said, we fell into it because it was like all this just marriage fun. But then I was able to just basically take, my background and kind of and use it to my advantage, I think.
Hmm. Yeah, no kidding. So, how many subscribers do you have right now?
the page, paid subscribers,
Yeah.
like 40,000.
Jesus. That's a good amount. So figure your subscription is $15, I think.
Yeah.
Damn. That's some good bank every month.
Yeah. Well, I mean, a lot of that went up, right, because of like the last like couple weeks because of everything that was going on. So yeah. So we'll see what happens. But before that, we were running pretty high anyway. So
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, as far as I can remember, you've been one of the biggest creators on the platform. So I mean, the two biggest ones I talk to on a fairly regular basis are you and Jade Teen. So I mean, both of you guys are top 0.01% above that somewhere. So I mean, it's crazy. So how did you, before you got on to OnlyFans, you were just on Reddit, or how did that happen?
So just on Reddit. So how did that happen with Reddit? So
Yeah,
um
take us back to the beginning.
it's back to the beginning, right? Okay, so you guys read some of the stories, but so, and this kind of gets more in my personal life of like, going through like having kids, going through like early menopause at a really like a younger age, more most women go through it like in their 50s.
Mhm.
I unfortunately went through it like late 30s, early 40s, and just wasn't feeling sexy. I was just like, I was missing that intimacy in our relationship. So we tried all different sorts of things. One of the things like Chris did in the very beginning, he's like, hey, I have this picture from our vacation up in Tahoe. Can I throw it on Reddit? And I mean, you're on Reddit, so you know, like the subreddit
Mhm.
I'm talking about, like, would you F my wife type subreddit.
Mhm.
And so he threw it on there and it was super successful. And so then he threw another picture up and he's, and at the time, like I'm a mom, right? I don't have like,
Mhm.
I have like mismatched underwear. I didn't have like any lingerie. I had like this
That
tight
mom life.
mom life. Yeah, exactly. And I just, I'm comfortable like where I am now, like jeans and a sweatshirt or a flannel.
Mhm.
So I don't find myself as like sexy or anything like that. So it was like, and then it became like really popular. And so I was like, okay, like, hold up. I'm like, I need to take this account over. I'm like, because I'm like, if this is, becoming popular, I'm like, I want to handle this. So, so then I took the Reddit over and that's when I started posting more pictures and I'd have him take the pictures in the very beginning. And then we'd fight. We were constantly fighting about pictures because, he's like, you pose this way. And I don't know how to pose. I was like, like, what do you mean? And so we would constantly argue about that. So then finally I got a tripod, I started taking my own pictures and then I'd have him always look over them because from a man's perspective, he can have that man's point of view. And even now he'll tell me, oh, I really like this picture. And I'm like, oh, I hate that picture. He's like, no, it's hot.
That's how
and
it
I'm like,
always works.
yeah, right. And I'm like, no, that picture is horrible. So he helps me like, pick out the pictures. And that's it. That's all he does. And then sometimes now I do let him take pictures because it will be faster because I'll take a million of the same picture and he gets pissed. And now he'll just like take like, like just a handful and it actually does work out better. But we still fight over like what picture is the best one. But anyways, yeah. So on Reddit, it was, start taking these pictures and I start posting them. And then that's when someone's like, hey, this OnlyFans and then we thought like, and I thought really, I'm like, who is going to come see a 40-something-year-old mom on OnlyFans? I'm like, that's crazy. I'm like, my life's not that interesting. I'm like, I'm a mom. I'm like, I'm not like some like super hot, like skinny, young Instagram model that is just like beautiful. So I'm like, no one's gonna come like pay to come onto my fans or on my OnlyFans. I thought, well, and if they did, I'm like, okay, maybe I'll get like a couple $100 a month. I can buy some new shoes because that's my thing.
Shoes.
Actually,
Actually, I was gonna say your life's actually pretty interesting, given what you've accomplished so far outside of OnlyFans. That's incredibly interesting. I don't know anything about computer chips or fucking cow habits.
application stuff. Yeah. Application development. Yeah.
I know nothing about any of that, so that's incredibly interesting to me, anyway.
It is. It's fun, right? I mean, technology is fun. But so anyways, like going back here. So, yeah, I'm like, no one's going to come to see a mom on OnlyFans. That's just ridiculous. But they came. I mean, it's like the first month, I
in
think.
droves.
Yeah. The first month was like 14,000. Right. And we're like,
Jesus. Damn.
And, so we were shocked. We were like, what? And so then, I'm like, okay, this is cool. I'm like, it's behind a paywall. No one knows. We'll just kind of like, keep on the down low. And it was just really like, for us, it was really fun. I mean, and then over time, like someone would find it like that I knew, and they'd write me on the back end, like, through the direct messaging of OnlyFans, so like, or on Reddit, they'd be like, hey, Crystal,
Hi.
I see you. And then sometimes they would tell me who they were, and sometimes they wouldn't. The ones that would not tell me, it was kind of disturbing, where I'm like, ooh, you know me and you're seeing me, but I don't know who you are. But they were always like, hey, it's cool. I'm not going to say anything to anybody. And I'm like, okay. So, I mean,
then why did you mention it to me?
Right? Exactly. Because, I mean, and that was irritating. So I'm like, but you know who it is. You're not going to, you know me, you're not going to say anything, but you won't tell me who you are. So that was a little bit, unsettling, knowing that there's people out there that wouldn't say who they were. But I'm like, I would get over it. And I'm like, okay, fine. Okay, you see me, whatever, we're cool. We're not going to say anything. And so that went on for like, well, it was like almost a year, like 10 months before, some dad found it and then told his wife, and it was, it was off and running.
And then the Karens came.
Yes. Yes. And you know what? I really want to know who that, I mean, I do know who that dad is. And I just want to be like, you're a fucking pussy. Like, you broke man code. Who does that?
That fucking guy.
And I know he thinks it's hot because he's told other dads and it's gotten back to me. So I'm like, and here we are.
Like, damn it, Ted.
Right?
Jeez, I can imagine. So now, how did you go from Reddit to OnlyFans? You just decided, well, I'm popular, might as well monetize, or what happened?
It was pretty popular on Reddit. But no, like, and then, like I said, they were starting. So some of the, my followers on Reddit were just like, hey, why don't you start an OnlyFans? And that's when Chris and I looked at each other, and I was like, well, I'm like, they're asking me to start OnlyFans. And I'm like, I don't know what OnlyFans is. I'm like, we're in technology, but we've never, I haven't heard of that platform before. So we started looking into it, and we discussed it, like, okay, well, should we try this or not? And I'm like, and when I opened it, I only had like one page, and people started, one picture, and they started coming. And I was like, oh shit. And I got to throw up like more pictures, because if they're going to come, like, hey, you got to have a little bit more content than just like one picture. So, yeah, in the very beginning, I didn't really, it was just more of like trying to figure out like how the platform worked. Didn't really know. I didn't know any models for a long time on the platform. So, yeah, that was how it all started. It started from Reddit, and then some of my Reddit followers saying like, you should do this. And I was like, okay, I can try. No one's going to come.
And then look at it now.
Yeah, right. No one's going to come watch a mom.
So now, I mean, if there was anybody on OnlyFans that would be considered a role model, it would be you. I mean, you are the epitome of a role model, because you're successful in your professional life, you have a healthy marriage, and you're huge on OnlyFans. So for people who are looking, to be a little bit more successful, what would you recommend to them? Like, how do you balance all these things from work, kids, husband, and then your own businesses?
Well, I don't know if I'd be a role model.
No, you are, without a doubt.
Okay. Well, thank you. I don't look at myself that way. I mean, I think, like, for me personally, it's like, I think I'm successful, and my marriage is successful because I prioritize that first. Right. So that's like my first priority is my family. And so, we went into it. I think what also makes it successful is that we went into it not thinking it was going to be anything, right? We didn't go into it trying to make money. We didn't go into it trying to be like famous. We went into it just like for this fun, like marriage thing to do. I mean, because even like with my husband, he, you know, he's always been my cameraman. He's never been on the page up until I think a few weeks ago when I actually put a picture of him, or actually it was a video clip from one of the interviews that we did. Sorry. So that was the first time they've ever like, you know, seen him. I've always talked about him a lot, but I've never like had him on the page. So, but it was just, I think that is why it's like, and then I think also it's successful because it is a lot of balancing, right? Where it's like my family and kids have to come first, but because they were in school and because it's like COVID, I've had a lot of extra time where I can actually do it. And because of the way the platform works, you can queue up a lot of stuff. So I can queue it up in the, you know, in the morning or the night before and just like have it just like roll. And then also I look at it as more like software as a service, right? Where it's like, you're paying one price and the price is a higher price point, but it's like, I don't want people to tip me. They're not allowed. I mean, they still do. And I tell them, thank you, but I'm like, you don't have to tip me for me to like respond to a message or, because to me, I'm like, it just seems like it's so, I just don't like that. It's like, I want you to come in to my site and just have fun. And I think it's like, that's always been, it's been like this fun place for me to like express like my sexualities. I can live out my fantasies like for people. And all my members, for the most part, all my fans, they've all been like great and supportive and nice. You know, every once in a while you do get somebody who's a little bit like, who's a little trolly and maybe a little mean. But for the most part, you know, it's like, and I'm very honest, like when you look at my page, I tell you like what's inside and what's not. So you know what you're getting. And I'm not trying to short sell anybody. I'm not, pushing like video sales. I'm not like doing a ton of extra add-ons. It's just, one price and that's it. So I feel like I think that makes the page like successful in the sense that people like, they like it. They like the interaction. Because it's like, it's more of just, it's kind of like what their brand promise is for OnlyFans, is that you have a place you can come and you can interact with a model or a chef or whatever it is that person like your content creator. Yeah, exactly. But I think for us, it's been successful because it is finding that balance. And sometimes that balance is hard, but it's hard with any job, right? As being like a parent, a wife, any job or any type of professional you're doing, it's always finding that balance. So I feel like I have to really time manage myself, do a lot of time management really well. Otherwise, like the wheels will start like falling off a little bit. But so I think with that, it's putting like the priorities in my life right. So and always remembering that, this is just a really fun thing, but it can always go away tomorrow too. It's technology, and technology, there's always something else on the horizon, and things can, disappear. And knowing that, right. Knowing that's like, this can go away tomorrow. So it's like, I'm always looking, from having that business perspective is like, what could be the end game? What could be that exit strategy? And what is that constantly going to look like? So does that make sense?
Yeah. I mean, do you have an end game, or like,
well, right now, I think our end game is
OnlyFans.
What?
What do you see for yourself after OnlyFans?
Oh, I don't know. Because this has been such a wild ride, right? There's so many different things, like opportunities that are like on the horizon right now, which I never even thought that could be possible. So I'm just, I don't know. Because even with this, right, we didn't go into it thinking like OnlyFans was going to be like so big for us. We thought it was just going to be like, no one's going to show up. Okay, maybe like the first month we're like, oh, cool, $14,000. Damn, really? That's crazy. Like, that's crazy money.
It's not bad.
And then 20,000, and then like it was just growing. So it's just been like, wow, this is like actually like, this is crazy that people like, it still blows my mind. That people still find me entertaining, which I'm glad, I'm happy. Otherwise, and I also think it's like for me, it's like, if it wasn't fun for me, I wouldn't do it. Right. If it wasn't interesting and fun, I would just be like, then it would be too much of a job. And if it was a job and a job per se, like where if it's a job and I don't like it, I'm just not going to do it. I mean, that's just kind of my personality. It's just, life's too short. I've done other things and I'll just find something else to do. So I just feel like with this, there's always been like these doors that will open and shut. And also because of the fact that it's like, I've run businesses and I've had to put everything on the line, right? I've had to throw like all the chips down, like, and when you do that, and you have to be a risk taker in that sense of running your own business and be able to, there's times where it's like when you run your own business, you don't get paid. You have to pay your employees. I mean, you have to do things that like when you're running your own business that you don't like to do, like for your customers. There's all this like risk analysis that goes on in the background that you're constantly like weighing out. And I think it's the same thing here where it's like, and then, you realize like, okay, this isn't like working for me any longer. I want to like exit that and try something else. So, I mean, it's the same thing with this business. It's like, I look at it as like, as long as I'm having fun, as long as Chris is still on board with it and he's happy with it, then I'll keep doing it. He has to be on board with it, right? I mean,
yeah,
my husband's not on board. If he's not on board with me doing this, he would not be good.
Yeah, no, that's one thing that some couples have issues with. I mean, it's great that you and your husband both agree with what you're doing, but some other models I've talked to, their significant others aren't on board. And I'm like, well, yeah. I mean, if you're not married, then just if you don't agree with them, just fucking bounce. But everybody's different.
Well, it's funny is that when parents first started finding out at the school, I had a mom ask me like, hey, I heard that you're doing this behind your husband's back. And another story I heard was, oh, hey, my husband's doing this behind my back. Like he's taking my pictures and posting them and I have no idea.
Damn.
So I mean, I've heard
there's a TikTok about that.
What?
I saw a TikTok like that. It was a joke. But are you on TikTok?
Yeah. So it's funny. I was on TikTok like I started back in May of last year on TikTok. And then a mom friend found me right away. And she's like, what the hell is this? So I tell her, and that was my first person that actually was like, I tell her everything. And then she was like, all right, okay, I never want to talk to you again. And I was like, oh, all right, I guess the judgment's deep. And that's the one thing I've learned. And I think, like for all women, it's like the one takeaway is that I feel like people will always judge you. It's just that when they find something out about something like this or something out about your life, then they have a reason to actually judge you verbally and then not be your friend anymore. Right. So before they're just kind of your fake friend, right? They're like, okay, but but now like when things like this happen, you realize, oh, you've always fucking judged me. You just now have a reason to be valid in your argument to judge me and to not like me. And I'm like, that's cool. I'm happy that I know that about you now. And then I can just cut you loose and I don't put any more time into our friendship.
Yep. So on TikTok, there was this one sound going around where a guy said something like, my wife is making a killing on OnlyFans. She just doesn't know it yet.
That's awkward.
Yeah, I can imagine couples therapy may be needed when she finds out.
Right?
Yeah.
That would be awkward.
Indeed. So one other thing I wanted to ask you, because you've actually sent a few people my way, and I've seen like some of the people that you promote. So do you actually promote like real family members and whatnot? I mean, because I don't know, but how much of that is actually legit?
On my page. So so I stopped doing any like model share for share like last summer.
But what I mean, like you would say, this is my neighbor. This is
that's true. Oh,
really?
MILF Estates is 100% true. Yes.
Nice.
Yes. Those are all of my girlfriends who live in the neighborhood. Hands down, that's 100% true. My mom is on the page, 100% true. And actually I've done side-by-side pictures like 25 years ago. and then a picture of us now. So people understand like, no, she actually is my mom.
That's crazy.
But yeah, the MILF Estates is legit.
That's pretty cool. Yeah, because one
and
of the
that's
things.
funny. That's
Go
funny
ahead.
too, because one of them, I mean, like, you know, she was really a chef and she lost her job and during COVID. And she's been on the longest. And so she, you know, she kind of, that was like the start of it. And then another one lost a job in the summer. And then a couple other moms like came to me and they're like, hey, well, because I had told them at the time, because it was all bubbling up, like afterwards, I'm like, hey, this is what's going on. And they're like, oh, this sounds really interesting. Like, tell me more. You know, this is really cool. And, you know, and for them, it's like, I think like for a woman, it's like, for me, it's like, it's helped me like in my intimacy and in like my sexuality a lot. And so for some other moms are like, this is actually really hot. And I'm like, see, I told you.
And it's even better if you can get them to sign up through your referral code.
Yeah.
Yeah, one of the things I find super irritating with other OnlyFans creators is they'll often do the share for shares on their page, like, oh, check out my cousin, check out my sister and all this, whatever the fuck. And I'm like, listen, Crystal, you are very white. Your sister is not the very dark-skinned Latina. That we know that's bullshit. Stop saying
right.
Like, you want to see me film with blah blah blah? It's like, no, not really. If I wanted to, I probably would have subscribed to them. Oh goddamn, I hate share for shares so much.
Me too. So me too. And that was the whole thing. Like the reason I stopped, because honestly, because I try to listen to my fans, right? And they were getting really irritated. Like, hey, you did this share. You told us to go over this person and their page like sucks.
Garbage.
And so, and it's like, you know, and it comes down to like, I got to keep my customers happy, right? I mean, it's like, it's all about customer service. If they're not happy, then it's like, they're going to leave. So that's when I decided like, you know, nope, I'm not doing any more share for shares. Now my mom, MILF Estates moms, because they basically run their pages very similar to mine. I don't know if you've ever seen them. Have you seen any of them? Okay, they're very similar, right? What?
I haven't heard of that one until you mentioned it. MILF Estates?
What MILF? Well, I call it MILF Estates. That's where we live.
Oh.
No.
Oh, I didn't know. Okay, this all makes more sense now.
Okay, so the moms that I'm with sometimes in pictures, right? Like they are legitimately my friends. Yes, thank you. Having problems this morning, didn't have enough coffee. So they are my friends and they do live in the neighborhood. And when they like, you know, I've helped them build these pages and then, but you know, I also I helped them in a way where it's like, hey, listen, it's like, you have to be like, I want them to have a strong brand. And basically, you know, you need to treat your customers like how I treat my customers. Otherwise it's like, I can't help you, you know, because it's like, I don't want to be having you on my page and help promoting you on my page, but us taking pictures together, if you're going to give them like something shitty, you know, that works against me. So, luckily for them, it's like, they've all like used the same type of like, they run their pages very similar where it's like all inclusive price. I mean, some of them do sell videos and some of them are very more explicit in their content, which actually helps me too. Cause I'm like, hey, if you, I don't have that type of video, but you can go over and see person X and she does, you know, but we filmed a lot together and we do try to take a lot of pictures together. So people know it's like, no, we are real, like people that live in the same neighborhood. We're not just, you know, one picture we've ever taken together and I'm calling you my neighbor, you know, we try to get together, like for the holidays, like one big thing, or like I'll go over to one of their houses and we'll have coffee, you know, and then maybe we take our shirts off and we're drinking coffee, you know. So people understand it's like, no, we are like these real people and we're all like, we are friends. It's not make believe.
Yeah, I think more people need to realize that the creators on OnlyFans are real people.
Yeah, right.
But a lot of the creators also have to realize their customers are also real people. There's a very interesting power dynamic on OnlyFans. It's like we're all actual people. These aren't corporations, except for the models who have, you know, agencies run their pages. But I mean, yeah. One of the reasons on my subreddit and my website, the number one rule is don't be a jerk, is because, these are actual people. I mean, if somebody comes at you first, by all means, defend yourself. But you can't come onto my subreddit and leave a review for someone and say, fuck this bitch. I was like, no, you can't do that. I don't care what happened. Unless they come at you like that first, you can't say that.
So one of my mantras to live by is don't be an asshole.
Yep.
Right? I mean, it's for me, it's like, I shouldn't be an asshole to other people. And I'm not going to be an asshole to my fans either, because it's like, they're my customers. And if you look at it like strictly from like a business perspective, you would not be an asshole to your customers. I mean, they will leave you. And some of these models, they get it wrong. They come in and it's like their customers, their fans ask for something. And then they're like, oh, how dare you? Like, fuck you. It's like, hold up. You would not go to a restaurant and then like say like, well, if you want water, you need to pay me like $5. And if you don't give me the water, then I'm going to like say, I mean, it's so, I just think it's like, it's just, they are real people. Right. And we're all like, to me, I look at them like, if I was on my site, how would I want to be treated?
Yep.
How would I want, and that's why I try to put myself in their shoes of like, how do they want to be treated? Because that's how I would want to be treated. And I've been that way. I've always, tried to been very customer service oriented through like my whole career. Right. From being at Intel to being like at, running my own corporation to anywhere I'm at, it's like, it's customer service is a big part of it, because if you lose your customers, and if you're not nice to them and you don't understand what their wants and needs are, you're going to have no business.
Yep. I tried to explain that to a girl that lives out here that I know, because when I first started my website, she also started her OnlyFans. So I was like, oh, awesome. Let me help promote your page. So she sent me a free trial and I looked at it and it was like, this is garbage. It's like, what are people subscribing to you for? And I told her this in a nice way, and she's all, you don't know what you're talking about. I hope you enjoyed the free week, blah, blah, blah. I was like, you literally just took what you posted on Snapchat and posted it to your OnlyFans, and you expect people to be cool with this? I mean, I haven't checked her page in a long time, but I think she's got maybe 40 fans after, like a year and a half on OnlyFans. Like, that should tell you something. I mean, it's great if you just have some big fish that tip you a lot. That's cool. But I mean, you don't got anything worth paying for on your OnlyFans, or at least she didn't at the time. And by the lack of growth on her page, I mean, things obviously haven't changed. And she got all mad at me as if I was the asshole. I was like, wait, I'm just trying to tell you, like, I'm not being mean. I'm just giving you an honest opinion about what you're doing. And, that made me the bad guy. And then she's all, I'm worth millions of dollars and blah, 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 blah. I was like, okay, sure. Maybe you are. Not in this capacity, though.
Yeah. And I think what happens is that, right, it's like, because these models, and I work with a lot of them, and I try to coach them and help them, and I've created guides on like, how do you like, what's your brand image, and how think about like who you're selling to, and how do you like how can you actually like make your page very different from everybody else too, and like how do you create that brand identity where it is different from somebody else? Because it's a funny story is that since this all happened last couple of weeks, people have actually come onto my page, models have taken like my whole like intro of like who I am,
your bio,
and copied it, and actually are using that like, oh, I'm your average mom next door. I mean, just like word by word, where I'm like, okay, that's not like unique. Now it's like find a different unique.
First of all, Helen, no.
Yeah, right. Someone one model came onto my page, asked for help, and of course it's like I give a lot of free help, because it's like that's to me, I'm like, you should always be giving back and helping other people too. So she came on my page, named herself like Miss Poindexter with another R at the end of it for her OnlyFans page, and I'm like, oh, hold up, I'm like I can't help
I got copyright on that.
I'm like, I can't help you if you're gonna do that. So then she like changed her name to something else. And I was like, giving her some tips and helping her like, okay, this is what you should think about, X, Y, and Z. Think about how often you're going to post, have a bunch of content on there before you like start your page up. So people don't come in, there's like one picture, right? Because I tell people to at least get like 40 to 50 pictures on there before you even open your page. And then like for for me, I try to do like 10 to 12 postings a day, you know, to keep it very like lively and interactive. And so, you know, I really try to help these girls. And so I try to help her. And what does she do? As soon as like she gets some information, then she goes back, she changes it back to Miss Poindexter. And I'm like, oh, sister, I'm like, this is not good. She ended up closing her account, but she didn't.
Good, fuck her.
But I was just the same thing. I'm like, it's just the whole fact it's like, you have to, and I think going back to your point, like you're talking about your friend, is that I think us women, we put a lot of, I think it's really hard as a woman because you're putting yourself out there, right? And you're selling like these images of yourself. And it's like, if people don't come, it can be very emotional, like in the sense of you don't like me. It's like a lot of my self-worth. I think for me, I look at it as I have this strong, like, I think more masculine personality. Cause I've always been like more of a tomboy where I'm like, you like me, you don't like me. It's whatever, you know, but I can but there's been times where I can see like where it could get to you like, oh, people don't like this picture or they're taking it very personal. And I think you have to just kind of like build up a little bit of walls of being like, hey, some people are going to like you and some people aren't. And it's just, and that is okay. That is just how life is.
Yeah. I tell people there's a big difference between you and your content. Your content isn't who you are as a person. Those are two very separate things. Like my platform, we don't review people, we review content. So, I mean, if you have a bad experience with a content creator, I mean, that's one thing, but you're not coming onto my platform to write a review about somebody's personality. That's just not what it is.
Yeah.
So that's just all I have to say about that. But yeah, I try to make that clear to people. It's like, no, you can't call her a lying bitch because you don't know her.
Yeah.
You can call her content trash and garbage. Maybe she didn't sell what she said she's going to sell, but you can't make any determinations about this person as a person without knowing them in person. Yeah. But people still try, and then I delete their reviews.
That's good.
Yeah, man, I don't understand why people on Reddit can't read rules before they post. It's like, all my rules are right here. It just says very clearly what you can do and what you can't do. And then people are always like, ugh, and then I have so many models try to promote themselves on my subreddit, which I don't allow because then it'd just be a total shit show. But there must be at least 10 per day. And it's like, just read the rules. It tells you how to do this.
I know. Well, and that's it too. Like I have a whole Reddit guide, like to help these girls, like, how do you get onto these different subreddits? And then they come back to like, I got banned. I got kicked off. And I'm like, did you read the subreddit rules? No. Well, what'd you do? I mean, the same thing with like, just even on my page where people come on like, where's this type of video? And I'm like, well, it says it when you joined. It told you I don't have those type of videos. Then because they'll be like, I want this. And I'm like, well, I don't have that. I'm very clear. It says it, you know, same thing. I mean, I think people just glance over things and they don't, you know, they don't pay attention.
Well, then again, you also know how guys are, even though it might say one thing. I was like, well, I know if you give me an inch, but let me take a mile. It's just typical guy shit. I mean,
and men are visual, right? They're not even reading. They're like, oh, pretty girl, let me go there.
Yeah, I'm guilty of that. But yeah, one of the things that is nice about your bio is how transparent you are. And that's another reason why I do what I do, because of the lack of transparency. There's so many girls that are on OnlyFans that say, oh, exclusive content. Well, what the fuck is exclusive content? A water bowl? Or like, what do you mean by that?
Yeah.
And I feel that's just straight up scammy. It's like, just say what you're doing. It's only going to benefit you. People can be okay with a lot if you just tell them what they're getting themselves into. If you tell them I don't post nudes or do this, that, and the other, there's going to be people that are like, okay, fuck it, whatever. Yeah. But a lot of people want to hide behind whatever.
Yep. I get that. I agree with you completely on that one.
Yeah. So that's why I'm here.
Right?
Yep. But all right, I know you got stuff to do today, as do I. It was great having you on the podcast, and I'll talk to you later.
yeah, if you need anything else, definitely, reach out to me.
I definitely will, because I will be needing you in the future.
Okay, yeah, definitely. Yeah.
All right. It's good talking to you. I'll talk to you later.
All right. Okay. Bye.
Bye.